discuss what we know to be true. We know if we travel to Australia or to certain parts of Africa, we're not going to be upside down. We know that. People, if you call someone in Africa now on the telephone, they're not going to say, dude, I'm standing upside down. They're going to say, no, I'm standing right side up. For you to physically have a ball or a globe and have someone who is supposedly in the opposing position of you, that one of you are upside down. It's that simple. Both of you cannot be right side up. We know this is true based on our reality. No one has to tell you that that's not true or that is true. You have experienced being upside down. You have experienced standing right side up. Because you have that experience, you know it. It's that simple. So for you to believe that the earth is literally, I am talking literally, not figuratively, literally a globe, you must believe people are upside down and some people are right side up. It's that simple. Either you believe that or you don't. Now, the problem with belief, if you believe this to be true, you have no evidence to substantiate your belief. I'm talking reality here. You're not going to hear me go into the cosmos in this discussion. I don't need to go there. You have to believe people are right side up and upside down, standing on the side of the ball, standing underneath of the ball, standing on top of the ball. You have to believe when it rains in Africa, it rains from the bottom up. That's what you have to believe. Rain does not fall down vertically like we all experience if you believe that the earth is a globe or oblate spheroid. Somebody is getting rain upside down. That's our reality. You may not like our reality. Your mind may want to reconstruct our reality because that's what many of these scientists do. They reconstruct what we know to be true and they tell you something opposite. And they tell it to us as children. And we begin to believe it as children. They tell you Santa Claus is real. How do we know that Santa Claus is real? Because on Christmas morning, there's gifts. And somebody had to bring those gifts. And because I was good all year, Santa Claus, in the middle of the night, put gifts under the Christmas tree. That's what we teach our children, and our children believe it. Why do they believe it? Because an authority told them so. Their parents, society, the TV set, their teachers, education, all the people that they must trust told them Santa Claus is real. Then you get older and you start to learn Santa Claus isn't real. Mommy and daddy bought this stuff while we were asleep, put it in wrapping paper, gift wrapped it, and put it under the tree. Mommy and daddy is actually Santa Claus. Once we realize that, we no longer believe that a fat man slides down the chimney. Think about it. But if we were allowed to critically think on our own and never be forced to trust the authority blindly, without question, children would never believe Santa Claus came down the chimney. Why do we believe in NASA? Because we were conditioned to believe in NASA. And it didn't start with the moon missions. It started with the movies. They were talking about aliens and space travel in the since the TV has been created. When TVs were black and white, before there was a NASA program, they were conditioning the people for intergalactic travel. And once generations grew up with that form of education or that form of entertainment, they then created something serious. And they called it NASA. And then the Russians did their thing. And then there was a space race. And all of a sudden, science fiction became real. Rocket ships and spaceships and everything became real. Martians became real. Satellites became real. Everything became real. But before they could become real, they first had to entertain you with it. See, my generation was all about Star Wars. We had Battlestar Galactica. We had Captain Kirk and Starship Enterprise, Star Trek. We had Battlestar Galactica. We had Flash Gordon. We had all the right stuff to condition our minds when they dropped the fake science program. It got to be real because I seen it on TV. So they developed the belief system before they executed the deception. And this is why when you go to talk to people and say, hey, how can people be upside down in Australia? Or how can we be upside down and people in Australia are right side up? How is that possible? They can't comprehend it. They can't. Because all the years of programming through entertainment, on top of forced indoctrination through the educational system. See, think about it. We all, every last one of us, have been conditioned in science. Every last one of us. You know how I know that? You got to pass science before you move on to the next grade. It's a prerequisite. I was in college taking criminal justice courses. They still forced me to take science classes in college. They make sure that you are exposed to the deception. And being exposed to it is not enough. They force you to learn it. You got to pass the test. Try to graduate from high school and don't pass no science courses. See what happens. You'll never get out of high school. So not only are you exposed to it, you're forced to study it, and you're forced to regurgitate it on a test just to get a basic education. And every single thing that you have to study in a science class in particular is not presented to you as just a typical theory with no opposing views. You're learning and absorbing what they claim to be factual. Space, from their perspective, is factual. The shape of the earth, from their perspective, is factual and has been forced down your throat since you were a child. You are in perpetual childhood. This is why flat earthers cannot have a rational discussion with regular people. Regular people meaning globe earthers. It can't be rational. They are children mentally when it comes to this discussion. They still believe in Santa Claus. It's that simple. And when we try to engage them, if you ever notice, they never, ever, ever, ever consider anything we say. If they don't consider anything we say, what's the purpose? It's just good to make them look stupid? Because we do. You have one group of people that believe in Santa Claus and that worship science and scientists and Galileo and Kepler and Copernicus and all these people with no evidence. And the only reason they know them is because it's forced down their throats as children and they got to be able to regurgitate it on a test. It's that simple. So let's keep it real. How do we know the earth is flat? Because that's the way we experience it. They tell us, ignore your experiences. Ignore them. Your five senses mean nothing. Listen to what we say. Don't trust your God-given, if you're a God believer, God-given tools to know reality. Only trust what I say. I wrote the Bible, therefore I know God. And I know God, you don't know God. Your job is to be humble, sit there and listen to me tell you what God said. There is no difference between religion and science. They're the same. You have to have blind faith and blind trust in both. And if you choose to do that, that's fine. My only beef with you is don't call it truth. One person cannot come to you and just sprinkle truth on you. Truth is for everybody. So if you're truly speaking truth, I should be able to experience it too. Not just the pastor and not just the scientist. I should be able to experience it just like you. So if you tell me the earth is round because you know it's round, I should be able to know it too. And I can't. I can't know around earth. I've been to many places around the world. I can't know around earth. It doesn't exist. So if you're teaching me something that doesn't exist, you're a liar. You're taking your belief and you're passing it off as truth. Now apply that to everything. If you come to the public and you say, this is how it is, I should be able to experience it just like you. If I can't experience it just like you, it's not real. I'm keeping this discussion to the ground. Don't tell me what the cosmos is if you didn't experience it. Don't give me your interpretation and call it truth. All you're doing is misleading people, no matter what side of the coin you're on. I'm a flat earther because that's the only goddamn way I can experience the earth. I can't experience it as a ball. Can you? And if so, help me experience it like you. Help me walk around the earth, fly around the earth, sail around the earth, and experience the globe. Now, if you say you experience the globe because the sun rises and falls, does that prove flat earth? Does that prove globe earth? Or is that a natural phenomenon that nobody can explain? They can guess at it. They can make assumptions. They can tell you what they think. But have they been to the surface of the moon? I mean, excuse me, the surface of the sun? What is the surface of the sun? Is there a surface of the sun? What exactly is the sun? Now, we know what it does. See, just because you can manufacture mental constructs of something, it doesn't make it true, no matter how good it sounds. You can tell me anything, and if it sounds good, that does not make it true. How do we know when something's true? It's detectable. You can detect it. How? How can you detect something? Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. That is how human beings detect that which is outside of themselves. If you take sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch away, take it away. What do you got? We got a word for it. It's called death. Death is the losing of the five senses. Think about it. I want you to manufacture in your mind a person that exists based on what we call existence that still have their five senses. They can see, they can smell, they can hear, they can taste, they can touch. So, would I be reaching if I said life as we know it is based on the proper detection and usage of your five senses? Because without it, you can't connect to nothing. You can't hear me speak if there's no hearing. You have no hearing. You can't see me on this video if you have no sight, no smell, no taste, no sense of feeling and touch. See, some of you want to argue, well, we got more than just five senses. No, we don't. No, we don't. Everything you think is in addition to the five senses fall under one thing, feeling. Think about it. Hearing, smelling, tasting, seeing, touching. Touching is another form of feeling. That's how we know the external world. That's how you know everything outside of yourself. Those five senses is how we know reality. What is reality? Everything that exists outside of yourself. So how do you ignore your five senses to define something when you're not detectable? How is that possible? How can I tell you what a light year is if I've never detected it? How can I tell you about dinosaurs and other imaginations of the mind if I've never detected it? Some of you may say, what are you talking about? Dinosaurs, they found bones and they found this, they found that. Let me know when you find an authentic fossil bone that is open to the public to actually experience and not a replica. My point, I could be 100% wrong on every damn thing I just said. But the only way you could know that I'm wrong with what I'm saying is if you've detected the thing itself. If you didn't detect the thing itself by one or more of the five senses, your ass don't know it either. You just think you do. You think you know something. You don't know something. You didn't experience it. Look at that word experience. Experience. Experience, right? It's a witnessing. It's a knowing. You can find that same word in science. Experiment, experiencing, experiment. Don't you ever talk science absent the scientific method. Because if you take the scientific method out of science, it is no longer science. It's a belief system. How can you tell me about trillions and millions of stars and galaxies if it hasn't been ran through the scientific method? The big word in the scientific method is called experiment. You can't have an experiment without experiencing the thing itself. Whenever you talk about cosmology, it's absent the scientific method. Why? Because they want you to believe. They don't want you to know. To know something, you got to experience it. And they take it even further. That's what makes true science wonderful. True science, the stuff that they actually measure and test and so forth, and they do a due diligence. What makes true science special is not only do they got to experience it to prove it, another party, independent party, has to come in to also experience what you claim for it to be true or to be considered scientifically worthy. Think about it. Start pointing out what they know about space that has been scientifically proven by way of the scientific method. I'll wait for your answer. Moon missions, maybe? Was that a scientific method that was executed to prove? Okay, well, America was the first country to go to the moon. Who replicated that experiment? Did Russia replicate America's experiment based on the scientific method to going to the moon? No. How about China? How about France? Germany? Australia? Who replicated going to the moon? So if other parties have not replicated your experiment, it falls short of the scientific method. Your scientific method, your scientific claims have not been proven. Think about it. All of y'all learned this. If you paid any attention in school, you know to prove your claim, the next guy got to come in behind you and repeat it. It has to be repeatable, duplicatable. Who duplicated going to the moon? Nobody. And you know what? Nobody has even tried to include us. There was one president that had 6 moon missions. His name was Richard Nixon. And we impeached him because he was a fucking liar. Have you ever considered that? He was a fucking liar. He was this far from being the first president to be behind bars. So he resigned from office. But he gave you 6 moon missions. And you believe it. Why? Because you believe in Santa Claus. You still believe in Santa Claus. If you believe that the moon missions were real, you believe in Santa Claus. If you believe in the ISS, you believe in Santa Claus. You're still in perpetual childhood.